He looked exactly like me, but had been begging for help for 7 years. Hi, my name is Daniel. I'm 34 years old, and what I'm about to share with you will sound like a fever dream or a movie script. But I promise you, it's 100% real. This happened last month, and my life hasn't been the same since. I live alone in a fairly remote house in Oregon. I'm a freelance software developer, and I mostly work from home. The house isn't anything fancy, but it's peaceful, surrounded by woods, with no neighbours in sight. Just me, the trees, and my thoughts. One evening, I was cleaning out the basement. I'd been putting it off for months. The previous owner had left a lot of junk boxes, old tools, even an ancient-looking washing machine I'd never bothered to move. That night, I decided I'd had enough. I wanted it cleared. I pulled on gloves and started dragging boxes around. Dust filled the air, and spiders scurried from every corner. I'd been working for maybe an hour when I noticed something odd, a draft. That shouldn't happen. The basement has no windows. I stopped. Felt around with my hand near one of the back walls. There it was again, a breeze. Cold. Slightly metallic smelling. I moved the washing machine and found something that made my blood run cold. A metal door. Built into the concrete wall. No handle. No lock. No seams. At first, I thought it was decorative, or some weird remnant from the previous owner's obsession with DIY projects. But I pressed on it and it gave slightly, hollow behind it. I ran upstairs, grabbed my crowbar, and went to work. It took nearly 40 minutes to get it open, but eventually the door cracked open with a hiss of stale air and rust. Behind it, a pitch-black tunnel, the kind you only see in horror films. The walls were rough concrete, damp. The air smelled like mildew and something else, something worse. I should have called someone. The police. A friend. Anyone. But curiosity is a hell of a drug. I went in. The tunnel went down at a steep angle, maybe 30 degrees. I walked for maybe 5 minutes before I saw a light. A faint flickering, like candlelight. I rounded a corner and froze. There was a room. Small. Lit by a single bulb hanging from the ceiling. And inside was me. No, not a mirror. A man. Sitting on a cot. Then. Pale. Covered in bruises and scratches. His eyes locked onto mine, and his mouth trembled. You came back, he whispered. You finally came back. My heart slammed against my ribs. I couldn't breathe. It was like staring into a broken version of myself. Same face. Same scar on my chin. Even the same birthmark on my neck. I stammered, Who are you? He tried to stand, but collapsed weak. I'm mute, he croaked. I'm Daniel, and I've been trapped down here for 7 years. Everything in my body screamed to run. But I couldn't move. Because deep inside I believed him. I stood there, paralyzed. The flickering bulb above us cast shadows that made everything more surreal. I kept thinking this is a prank. A dream. A psychotic break. But deep down, I already knew the truth. The man this other me dragged himself up to sit on the cot. His hands were shaking, bones pressing against the skin. He looked starved. And scared. But there was also something else in his eyes' relief. You don't remember, do you? He asked, his voice hoarse, barely audible over the buzzing of the bulb. What are you talking about? I said. How are you, me? What is this place? He coughed violently. I noticed a metal cuff attached to his ankle, barely visible under a soiled blanket. It was bolted to the wall, like a goddamn prisoner. I was here before you, he whispered. This was my house. I was the one who bought it. In 2018, you replaced me. I wanted to laugh, but my throat had dried up. That's impossible. I've lived here for years. He shook his head slowly. No, you think you have, but your memories, they're not real. They were put there. I backed away. My legs hit the door frame. I looked down the tunnel behind me, tempted to sprint out and never look back. I don't believe you, I said. He nodded. You will. Check your files, your old photos. Check anything from before 2018. You'll notice gaps. You'll see how none of it adds up. I didn't respond. I didn't want to entertain this madness. I turned and ran back up the tunnel. I didn't stop until I reached my basement, slamming the hidden door shut behind me. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up, digging through my computer, external drives, anything with old data. I opened a folder labelled childhood. There were photos of me as a kid, birthday parties, school plays, vacations with my parents. But something was wrong. In every photo, I looked off. My smile too forced. My eyes never quite focused. In a few pictures, the backgrounds looked distorted like they were digitally edited. Some even had timestamps that didn't make sense. Deck 17, 1995, but the house in the background hadn't even been built in 1995. I opened my tax records. Bank statements. Everything before 2018 was vague. Generic. Like someone had filled in the blanks just well enough that I never questioned it. Panic gripped me. What if he was telling the truth? What if my life wasn't mine? The next day, I returned to the basement. I brought food, water, bolt cutters. I found him asleep on the cot. When I cut through the ankle cuff, he didn't even flinch. He woke up slowly, saw the bag in my hand, and smiled weakly. "Thank you," he whispered. I handed him the water. He drank like he hadn't tasted anything in weeks. "I need answers," I said. He nodded. "And I'll give you them, but not here, not in this tomb." We climbed back up the tunnel together. He could barely walk. I supported him with one arm. When we emerged into the basement, the daylight hit his face for the first time in 7 years. He cried. And then he said something that froze my blood. "They're going to come looking for me, and when they do, they'll want you instead." We sat at my kitchen table, the sunlight streaming in through the blinds. He, the other me, kept glancing at the windows like he expected someone to burst through them at any second. His hand shook as he ate the sandwich I had made him, chewing like it was the first solid food he'd had in years. I couldn't stop staring. Watching every move he made was like looking in a mirror, but not the normal kind. More like a haunted mirror. Same face. Same eyes. Same nervous tick where he taps his thumb against his middle finger when he's anxious. That used to be my habit. I hadn't even realized I still did it. "What did you mean they'll want me instead?" I finally asked. He set the sandwich down and leaned forward, lowering his voice. "I was part of a test," he said. "They never told me what it was for exactly, only they would change the world. I volunteered for a research program in 2018 that promised money, housing, and a clean slate. I was in a bad place, so I signed up." I listened in silence. "They scanned it," he continued. "Every memory, every habit, every emotion. Then they created you. A fully functioning replica with fabricated memories, but you weren't just a clone. You were a replacement, designed to live my life better than I ever could." I felt sick. That's insane. I know it sounds that way, but think how much do you really remember before 2018? Clear, detailed memories. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. "Exactly," he said. I stared at him. My mind was splitting in two. Part of me knew my life, my memories, my identity. But another part, the part that had seen the photo anomalies, the fake documents, the sealed tunnel in my own house, couldn't deny it anymore. "If they replaced you," I asked slowly, "why keep you alive?" He looked down. "I don't know. Maybe they needed a failsafe. Maybe they were afraid something would go wrong with you. Or maybe," he looked up again, "they wanted to see what would happen if the original ever came back." I leaned back in my chair, dizzy. "So what now?" He looked toward the basement door. "They'll know this I'm gone. They monitor everything. Even if you've never seen a camera, trust me, this house is wired to the teeth. We don't have much time." "Time for what?" I asked. "To disappear." I stared at him. "You want me to run? Abandon everything?" "If you don't," he said, "they'll make you vanish, just like they did to me. You're not their first project, but if we run together we might expose them, or at least survive." I laughed. It was dry and hollow. "This is insane." "He said that already," he replied. "But deep down, you know I'm telling the truth." "And the worst part?" I did. Just then, a low click echoed through the house. We both froze. I slowly turned my head toward the hallway. The front door was unlocked. I hadn't left it that way. He stood up, eyes wide. It started. We didn't speak. We just looked at each other, two versions of the same man, frozen in the exact same posture of fear. The silence in the house was suffocating. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears, fast and heavy. Every instinct screamed, "Run, hide, fight," but I couldn't move. Then came another sound. Footsteps. Soft, slow, deliberate, coming from the hallway. Whoever had entered wasn't trying to be stealthy. They wanted us to hear them. He, the original Daniel, grabbed my wrist. "We need to go, now." We bolted for the back door, moving as quietly and quickly as we could. I had a brief, insane thought. What if they already surrounded the place? What if this is just protocol for them? We slipped out into the yard and ran into the woods behind the house. The ground was damp, the branches slicing at our skin as we sprinted through underbrush. The air was thick with panic and fear. About half a mile in, we ducked behind a fallen log, trying to catch our breath. "What do they want with me?" I gasped. "They don't want you, they own you," he said. "You're a product, an asset. If you start acting unpredictably, they terminate." "Terminate? You mean a kill?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. We sat there in silence for a few moments before I asked, "Who are they?" He looked at me with something between pity and dread. "A private biotech firm. They go by several names. You probably know them as Otherker, or maybe Nextlace. Doesn't matter, they're all fronts. The real work happens in places like this. Remote. Off the grid. No oversight. The government doesn't stop them because they use them." I felt like I'd swallowed ice. "Why didn't you say anything sooner?" "I couldn't," he said. "They wipe more than your memories. They put fail-safes in your mind, neural traps, psychological blockades. You're just now starting to see through it. That means your programming is breaking down." Programming. The word hit me like a slap. Was that what I was? Just programming. A walking code wrapped in muscle and skin. Suddenly, we heard something above us, a drone. Quiet, but not silent. A soft mechanical hum. We ducked lower, pulling branches over ourselves. Damn it, he whispered. They're scanning, looking for movement, heat signatures. What do we do? He looked around, thinking fast. There's an old utility tunnel under the highway a few miles from here. They used to transport gear underground. It connects to a power station that they abandoned years ago. If we can get there, we might be able to lose them. So we ran again. I couldn't believe this was happening. Just hours ago, I was cleaning my basement, thinking about ordering pizza. Now I was running for my life with my own face beside me while a faceless organization hunted me like an animal. As we neared the edge of the woods, I heard a voice. Clear. Projected through a speaker. Daniel, stop running. You are compromised. Return to containment, and this can be reversed. I turned toward the sound. There, standing at the tree line, were two figures in black suits. No visible weapons. No expressions. Just empty eyes and perfect posture. We can fix this, one of them said. My double looked at me. If they get you, you're gone. And I knew. I had to choose. The men in black stood like mannequins, too still, too clean. They weren't shouting or charging. They were waiting. Expecting me. My breath caught in my throat as I looked back at the original me, Daniel. He was crouched beside me, dirt smeared across his face, sweat dripping down his jaw. His eyes were locked on the two figures, burning with hatred and fear. Then he turned to me. They're not here to fix you, they're here to reset you or erase you. One of the suits took a step forward. Daniel, he said, and I realized with a jolt they weren't even trying to figure out which one of us was which. They already knew. You've been flagged as unstable. Return now, and we can stabilize your profile, reject this offer, and we'll initiate a full recall. I was shaking. Every part of me wanted to scream. What do I do? I asked. My double stared at me like it was obvious. Run, that's what you do, or fight, but if you stand still they'll rewrite you from the inside out. He grabbed my hand and pulled me up. We ran. Harder and faster than before, our feet barely touching the ground as branches slapped our faces and thorns tore at our clothes. Behind us, there was no shouting, no gunshots. Just the quiet, terrifying sound of footsteps always close, never rushing. Like they knew we couldn't run far. After 20 minutes, we found the tunnel. It was exactly how he described it, a rusted metal grate, half buried under moss and leaves, at the edge of a dried-up creek. We pried it open and climbed in. The darkness swallowed us. The air smelled like iron and rot. The tunnel sloped downward and curved left and right at sharp, unnatural angles. It wasn't made for people to walk through. We had to crawl half the time, scraping our knees and elbows on the jagged floor. Where does this go? I whispered. To what used to be a control station, he said. I used to sneak down here when I first moved in before they took me, before they built you. His voice broke a little, but I didn't have time to comfort him. We pressed forward. Finally, after what felt like hours, we reached a large metal door at the tunnel's end. He entered the code on a rusted keypad, one I didn't even realize he had memorized, and the door groaned open. Inside was a room, maybe 10 feet by 10. Old monitors, rusted filing, cabinets, half-melted hard drives. The whole place buzzed with residual static, like it had been abandoned mid-experiment. This, he said, is where they load everything, every test, every subject. He handed me a dusty laptop from under a pile of molded towels. You want proof, he said. Plug this in. I booted it up using an external battery pack he'd stashed. What I saw made my stomach flip. Footage. Dozens of video files, each labeled Daniel Prototype X. Versions of me. All failing. All breaking down. One screaming. One vomiting blood. One calmly reciting equations until he collapsed. And one me laughing in a kitchen, just like I did last week. Timestamp 3 months ago. They weren't watching me. They were recording me. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the room. Not from outside. From the laptop. The beeping grew louder. A slow, rhythmic pulse, cold, mechanical, final. The screen of the laptop flashed red, then black. Across it, in bold white letters. Reclamation in progress. I jumped up, heart pounding. What the hell is happening? My double grabbed the laptop and slammed it shut. They're trying to activate your recall failsafe, your mind, your body. They've been wired since the beginning. If we don't stop it now, you'll shut down like the others. I staggered back, suddenly dizzy. My vision blurred for a second, then cleared. Then blurred again. I could feel it, I whispered. Something's wrong, something's pulling at me. He yanked open a panel on the wall. Inside was an old server rack, dusty and blinking erratically. There's one way to stop it, he said, typing furiously on a cracked keyboard. We overwrite the remote access, cut the link between you and the command system. If I'm right, I can reboot your neural matrix. You're talking like I'm a machine. You are a machine, he snapped. So was I. That's what they don't want you to know. I froze. He looked at me, his voice softer now. You're not a copy of me, Daniel. You're what I was supposed to become. You're the version that worked. Everything inside me broke. Every memory, every laugh, every heartbreak, none of it was mine. It was code. Data. A simulation of a human life. A story written by scientists and run like a program. But I feel real, I said. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. That's what makes you dangerous to them. Suddenly, a crashing sound echoed down the tunnel. They were close. He pointed to the terminal. If I do this, you'll forget everything. All of this, me, them. This'll be like it never happened, but you'll be free from their control. You can start over. Really start over. I stared at the screen. Or, he said, we can fight together, expose them, but we probably won't survive. I looked at him, my origin, my broken mirror. The man I was supposed to be. The man they threw away. Then I heard another voice. One I recognized instantly. My own. But not from me. From the tunnel. A third Daniel was walking toward us. Face flawless. Clothes pristine. Eyes dead. He stopped at the door and smiled mechanically. Protocol override. All instances must be neutralized. He raised a hand. There was a flash of light. The gunshot. My double screamed and tackled me to the ground. I heard the bullet ricochet off metal. He shouted, run. I bolted past the racks and through a side hatch. Barely squeezing through as another shot rang out. I didn't look back. I ran until my legs gave out, until the woods swallowed me again. It's been 3 weeks since that night. I don't know if he's alive. I don't know if they're still hunting me. But I've changed my name, moved cities, and I haven't turned on a single piece of tech since. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I still see the screen. Subject text -41. Recall incomplete. Asset lost. And I know I wasn't the first. And I won't be the last.